Well, hello. You are listening to Flames. I'm joined here with Riot and Shy Guy, and with the
Oh,
very lovely help of Alex, who's doing the recording for us in the first Buzzcast, the official Buzzcast. Uh, hey guys, how's it going?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm
come on.
absolutely top of the world. Thanks so much.
Good to hear.
Things are all good on my side of the country.
Oh yeah, well, we are all split all over the world for this, aren't we? There's plenty of different accents here.
I'm trying to talk not Dutch, but sorry for the accent, guys. Sorry for the accent.
Yeah, you should be sorry.
Yeah.
Um, anyway, so
You should be sorry for Brexit, really.
Oh
And it's
God!
all one in a different direction.
Welcome to the Brexit Buzzcast. Um, yeah. So, in actual fact, however, we do have a small agenda for today. The first thing of which that we thought we would talk to everybody about is basically a bit of an introduction in terms of the content of future Buzzcasts and what we hope the little feature to be about. Essentially, it started because we wanted to modernise the Bootleggers Buzz. We were worried that that would become a bit stale and it wasn't really. I don't think it was really being consumed very much. Maybe enjoyed by a handful, but maybe this is a nicer way to do things. I don't know. It feels pretty modern, right? Do you think we should? I think this is probably a good way to go, right?
I
Yeah,
think
I agree.
nobody has time to sit there and read all those articles. Probably a lot of skimming. People are putting a lot of hard work into those, and I think this also gives more opportunities. So
Yeah, I agree.
should be fun.
I've been part of the Buzz team for a few years, and it gives quite some stress actually. And it's all a game after all, and a game shouldn't give you stress at all.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, like, yeah, the amount of fights that we've had in terms of get me my article now,
Yeah.
and real life's
More
happening.
pictures of
Not
Spider-Man.
um, so yeah, so I mean, we just obviously wanted to give you guys listening a bit of an update in terms of a bit of an introduction to this thing. I mean, the first thing that we wanted to talk about was the presenters, which at the moment we thought that for the first episode number one, we would all come in here. But what we're thinking about doing is just making that one of us would be like the presenter to start with. Um, but perhaps similar to the Buzz in terms of it being a player editor, that maybe someone would identify themselves who would maybe take it along in the future. But for right now, and for the next at least probably a month or so, I guess, we're going to us guys or one of us will be presenting this to you. So I'm sure our presenting skills are pretty good. But yeah, should be fun. You guys looking forward to present?
Yeah, definitely.
I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait to also get some guests on here, but that's a different topic.
Yeah, that is. Oh, we could talk about that now. What sort of guest do you want? Who would you pick if you could?
I think it'd be great to get some of these crew bosses who have won these scoring periods to come on and kind of talk about what that was like. Um, Maybe some of the runner-ups as well. And it's really great to get some player feedback on some of the different features that are going on. It'd be nice to be able to talk to somebody, through voice. You hear a lot more than just kind of talking over text. So I think that could be kind of fun.
You certainly get a lot more out of it, I think, because conversations happen a bit faster and stuff. So I think it is a nice format. Um, but yeah, I think that's probably a pretty cool idea to get people like that on. Obviously, like council of the winning crews. So like, I guess if we would have been up the last few weeks, we could have had TSE and like Haha from the royal family here. That would have been pretty cool. But yeah, maybe even people like maybe the people at the top of like busting leaderboard and stuff like that. That would be pretty awesome. Who would you have, Max, if you were presenting? Who would you ask to come on?
What about the help desk operators? I think that's gonna be quite some fun as well. They're
Yeah.
Let's not forget they're Belgian, but they can be fun.
Oh God, yeah, you've just reminded me. Forget those guys. No, they're cool. Okay, so I suppose the next thing in just to give you a bit of an introduction, maybe some information about what's going to be happening. Frequency. I mean, obviously, it's one of the reasons that it's quite nice to be able to do this as opposed to having a buzz is that the buzz itself, in terms of the word format, can take so long to set up, and getting something out every couple of weeks is a bit of a struggle. Whereas this, I think we can set it up and film it quite quickly. So we're thinking like once a fortnight to start with. We haven't actually made a decision yet, but what do you guys think?
I think that not everyone plays Fortnite.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but if they do.
I think right now we'll kind of see how many topics and stuff that people want us to discuss going forward, and then we can make another episode after that to kind of cover some of that stuff. Obviously, we can't get through everything today. And I think just as more stuff comes out that'll actually fill a nice cast, we can play it by that. Sometimes it might be every week. Sometimes it might be every other week. The point where it's just coming out annually.
Welcome to the 2018 Bootleggers Buzz. Article 1 of 1. Yeah, that's so true. But it is.
See you next year.
Yeah, it takes ages. It really does. It's just not sustainable, I don't think.
For those of you who weren't in the Buzz and kind of wondering what happened to it, it basically kind of turned into a same old song and dance every week. Like, hey guys, are we ready to put an article together? Does everybody have their articles ready to be reviewed? And oh man, so my house got hit by a meteor, and I'm okay, which is the most important thing. But all of my writing was burned down, and it was just, okay, we got 2 articles.
But some, obviously, if you really wanted to, you could as a writer, you could prioritize that. You know what? For these few hours a week, Bootleggers Buzz article is my top priority in life, and you would get it done. But nobody's going to put that at the top of their list, are they? And you see it all the time, saying we've all ended up being 30 years old playing Bootleggers together, so it's unlikely that a Bootleggers Buzz article is going to be at the top of your list. However, a 30-minute, very quick podcast once every couple of weeks is way more realistic.
It's manageable.
It's
manageable.
Way more manageable, especially when you've got a lovely helper in Alex putting it all together.
There's also, not to throw everything onto the Buzz writers and stuff, players have gotten a lot more paranoid over the years, so it's very hard for them to be able to get information from different crews and stuff like that, and to be able to verify information was correct. Every time they'd write an article, there'd be somebody who refused to be interviewed going, this is not true, this is not what happened, you should have asked us first. It's oh, we have receipts where they did, but so yeah, this format, we can bring somebody on here and they have nowhere to hide.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So we've spoken about presenters and who's going to be on it and how often it's going to happen. I suppose the next bit is what's actually going to be discussed. So I mean, you mentioned it a little bit about the guests. So the we're going to be following the scoring quite closely, which is a pretty cool thing. But I guess we're also thinking about having the same sort of agenda as the Buzz would, which is that you want it entertaining information that's coming out about things like new releases and developments, but then also in-game news. So I suppose that's the sort of topics that we're after, right? What do you think, Maxi? What would you...
Yeah, and I also think that the players should decide what this should be about, because the players play the game and they find things interesting, and those things should be discussed. I mean, this time we made the agenda and we decided what topics to discuss, but actually the players should be able to decide it and also join the BuzzCast.
Yeah, that's true. Oh yeah, we did actually talk about that a while ago, didn't we? About so obviously at the moment we this is a really the inaugural one, so it's all quite basic. But we did speak about making it like a really open, so everybody could join. The whole idea of setting up the Discord is that everybody could join a live recording. So if you weren't available at the time it was being recorded, then you could just listen offline later or put it on YouTube or whatever. But actually you could get involved with it as it's being recorded and ask questions, and it can be more a bit of a discussion. Do you reckon you would host it like that, Riot? Do you think?
Yeah, I think a live podcast is quite modern, and let's forget the newspapers and just try to do something live.
Yeah. I think that could work. What do you think, Riot?
No, I'm totally down for that. I think it's going to be a welcome addition to the Bootleggers community, especially as it gets going.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure with that format, I'm sure plenty of people could end up arguing live. So to think about
This is exactly what we want.
Yeah,
yeah.
Maybe we want the carnage. That could be quite funny, actually. I don't know who would cause more carnage. I'm trying to think of some of the people that can be quite vocal in the forums.
I do have some in mind, but I won't give you any names.
Oh, go on, give us one name. You can do one name. Who came to mind when I said that? Come on.
Yeah. I don't think that's very clever for me. I haven't seen any hate topics of me yet, so come on, guys, you can do better. Hate me more.
Let's just get inmate Carter and Rock to come in and settle their differences. Settle their differences over a cup of tea.
Yeah, those two guys should definitely come on and settle that thing.
I imagine the end, it was all a misunderstanding and they'll be besties. That's how these things work.
This is true. You can only deface so many graveyard posts, can't you? You need to start leaving some more flowers, guys. Cool. Yeah. So that probably covers off most of the things as terms of an introduction. I mean, we've spoken about who's going to present, who's going to be online, who's going to actually join us and contribute. Probably going to come out once every couple of weeks. Format, we're hoping that eventually we're going to switch from this sort of like offline recording where you can listen retrospectively to actually come and join the channel. And if you're available at the same time as it's being recorded, you can join in, pipe up, and ask your questions live.
And still post it to where people who can't make it can see it.
Yeah. So I think we're gonna have a YouTube channel where we're just gonna go and post all of the archives to stuff. And then in terms of topics, I guess following a similar pattern to what the Buzz was attempting to do, really, which is to hopefully you find this in some way entertaining, informative, and probably those two things, right? So we actually have a big long list of topics that we were trying to bring together over the last few weeks. Because we had a growing list of things that we knew were going on the back burner to go onto this podcast. So we tried to pick out a few of the more important ones. But just because it doesn't get mentioned today doesn't mean we don't think it's important. But we have a big long list. I mean, some of those were, what did we have? Things like player suggestions. There is actually quite a nice topic in the forum. Which is I think it's got about 10 or 15 suggestions in there, if not more now. So we one of the things in terms of topics would be to talk about player suggestions, discuss them, and see if they're viable to put into the game. Other developments and stuff that Kyle's working on. What other topics did we have? Right, what was on that list?
So we have increased the mod staff by 50%. And our productivity has decreased by 75%. Still trying to do the math on that, but maybe we can figure that out as well.
Max, what was on? What did you have any items on that list that you were particularly drawn to presenting about?
Well, we could talk about the new server, which causes some lags at the moment. And I think a lot of people are complaining about Kyle, which is not online and he's doing nothing. And to be really honest, when I wasn't a moderator and I didn't see Kyle online, I was like, that guy is not online and he's doing shit. he's doing nothing at all. And
It's just not true, is it?
it's definitely not true. I mean, we're almost talking on a daily basis to him, and he's definitely busy with stuff, but he's also working with external parties. And I think many players don't really see that, and they get annoyed, obviously, because of the lags. But I can promise all the players who are listening that Carl is doing his absolutely best to improve it and to make the game better as it is, because I think the current server is much faster than the old one.
Oh, it's
And
super speedy. Sometimes I've never seen it that fast for about 20 hours a day anyway.
And I don't think people really I do believe people see it, but they forget it because they are just focusing on the legs, you know, and I think that's a pity.
I mean, to be honest though, I always think this about performance in any sort of like any technology is that you measure it by it at its worst, don't you? Like if someone gave you a phone or something that was just amazing, but then for 1 hour a day it was just basically a paperweight, you wouldn't use it. So I know that it's definitely the top of his priority list at the moment, isn't it? Sorting this lag out.
Yeah.
I think, speaking of Kyle not being online, I think a lot of us have learned, or on the mod staff, have learned that when Kyle's gone for a prolonged period of time and he's not like on vacation traveling somewhere, something's unique and new is about to hit Bootleggers, whether it's a new feature or it's a new event. Kyle's just the type to put his head down when he gets coding and knock out something crazy in a short period of time. So
yeah,
I
that
think
is
we're
quite
having
common
something special
amongst
for
people
Christmas.
that work in software, isn't it? I think they do like to get their headphones in and get their head down and just thrash it out, don't they? But yeah.
So I think we're going to see something pretty cool for Christmas.
Yeah, I think so too. But also, in terms of we obviously had this new server, although it's brought some fantastic performance and some horrific lag at the same time, which I know he's trying to fix. We obviously did have the recent rollback problem, which I imagine is still, on some people's minds.
Hashtag too soon.
Real quick, before we move on from the server, we had hoped last week or the week before that it was going to get resolved. We thought that they thought something was going to be put in place and it was going to work. And as it turned out, it didn't. So working with this server company, it was kind of back to square one. But thank you to everybody who logged in when and where you had the server lag and what you were on. We're able to use that information to kind of help narrow down the issue. Please continue to do that. Maybe we should just make an official forum post where whenever somebody experiences lag, they can log in, like where their location is, what device they're on, if they feel comfortable doing so. And then we can kind of pass it on to Kyle to have him pass that on to the servers, and I'll get this figured out.
Yeah, we probably should do that. Create one topic where people can just put everything in. It's probably more helpful for Carl to go through it that way as well, right? To see when the spikes are.
It's hard to go through all 30 forum posts called effing lag.
I tried to make a post, but it timed out. I got gateway error.
All right, let's roll back to the previous conversation, though.
Yeah, let's roll way back. Let's roll it all back.
Oh.
So yeah, I mean, this is obviously something that hasn't happened in many years. It's a pretty. I mean, it's not something that anyone would ever do willingly, is it? You wouldn't go out of your way to do it, only if it was like a critical lesser of two evils, which it was in this case.
I literally could not think of a worse time for it. I guess the good thing is it didn't affect the winners of the contest of the period. It could have been very devastating had one crew, because TRF put in a long stretch of work to kind of take that top spot, and it would have been even more terrible had it happened right before the end, and then so kind of roll that back. But luckily, we'd already determined who the winner was. Still, there was some people who made some tremendous casino gains, hundreds of millions of dollars. And then once the the server crashed, everything was lost, and it was really tough to tell them, hey, the only fair thing to do is to keep the whole game at its rollback point.
Which obviously,
And some of them even
some people
had screenshots from that time, but the issue that happened was that everybody that got rolled back. So say you lost, 500 million, not 500, but say you lost like 50 million or something, or you lost a significant chunk of change and you got rolled back. And then somebody else also lost a lot more. They had some screenshots. If we were to boost that player who had the screenshots, then it also kind of hurts the person who lost and didn't get a boost that we couldn't verify, because not only have they lost their money, but then one of their rivals or somebody they might be at war with got to keep the money they made there. So they're like a double deficit, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
There's just really no clean, fair way to handle it. And
yeah, well,
the best we can do is.
I suppose when these sort of things go wrong, it hasn't happened. A rollback hasn't happened for several years, to my knowledge. So
I don't remember whenever, but
yeah.
Besides, not from this.
It's one of those things. Let's hope we end up fixing that server issue, which is affecting the lag. I know that Kyle's made it so that that memory problem, which resulted in a rollback, has already been fixed. So let's just hopefully mark this one off as a horrible point in history that we'll try and forget, something similar to Donald Trump getting elected.
We're kind of rollback here.
Make bootleggers great again.
Did you just elect British Donald Trump? If nothing else, appearance. If nothing else,
yeah,
he looks like a British Donald Trump.
Definitely. They both look like mop heads. But yeah, Boris is not like Donald.
No, he's worse.
Yeah, no. What are you on about? No, he at least finished, like, what do you guys call it in America? What's like primary school in the UK? What school do you call when you're like 11, 12? Is that like, what do you call it, junior high or something?
That's high school. Wait, junior high, 11 and 12. I think 11
secondary
and 12
school, right?
Yeah. Yeah, well, no, you have primary school up until 11 in the UK.
Okay, and what is
11 or
what
grade
is secondary
11?
School then?
Secondary school is like 11 to 16.
Okay.
The metric system. Oh no.
Metrics. Don't get me started on that.
Okay, yeah. So junior high is right before high school, so that would be like 11 to 13.
Okay, well, Boris Johnson has at least got that level of education, which puts him one ahead of Trump. Is eventually where my point was going to go.
Noted.
How many times before we started this did we go, we will not talk politics, we will not talk politics?
Yeah.
But yes. And what's your prime minister called? Is it called Mark Reuter or something? What's his name?
Rutte. Yeah.
Rutte. Yeah.
He's like president for almost 10 years, so.
Yeah. He's really tall, but I think a lot of Dutch people are really tall.
All Dutch people are tall, except me.
Yeah. I've seen you. You're very short.
Yeah, thank you.
But you dance like a beast.
I know.
Okay, so we just massively deviated away from our agenda for a long time there. We should probably work on ways to stop that happening in the future. And back on the agenda, we were going to talk, this is probably going to be one of our last points for today, I guess, is the scoring that has happened so far this round. Period 1, which was slightly longer than period 2, but period 1 won by TSE, right?
Period 1?
Period 1, yeah.
No.
Sacred Empire won it, right?
Oh, is that you're referring to the pre-period?
Sorry, yeah, no. Criminal Grounds. What am I talking about? Obviously, Criminal Grounds. What the hell am I on about? I just had TSE in my head because I think I was just looking at one of their profiles. But yeah, Criminal Grounds. That was an epic win. Those guys they only had like 10 members. How did they do that?
I'm looking at that. No, I'm just kidding. We did.
I know how.
The amount of help desk tickets we got going. This isn't fair. How are they doing this? And we looked at it, and they just worked their butts off.
They did. They absolutely smashed it. I mean, so period one, there was two strange things that happened that ended up getting resolved after the end of period one. The first one is the OC workaround, which obviously everybody was doing in period one, which was that you could give 100. So the revenue scored was obviously based purely off the payout of the OC, which is that crew members were saying, "Give me 100%, and then I'll pay you back afterwards because I want my crew to score 100% of the revenue from the OC." But everybody was doing that, so it wasn't really unfair. If anything, that was even diminishing Criminal Grounds' ability to win because they were they had so few members, so they had less opportunity to do that.
I think that fix I think that fix was more about like that'd be really annoying for the players to do just to try and stay up on everybody else. So it was one of those things where we're glad to get it fixed that people don't have to do it anymore.
So we have like a little feedback group, which has gone sort of stagnated a little bit in the last few weeks. We need to, that's on our priority list to bring that back into line. But it was one of the sort of things that we would run by them and say, well, how should it work? And eventually we came to the decision of the payout you can change however you want, but 4 members in the OC just get 25% each cut in terms of crew revenue, which I think is pretty fair. But yeah, Criminal Grounds absolutely smashed it, and I think there was a couple of other things that were mentioned as well in that's still going on now, which is that there is a way to make some super quick money via bootlegging, which means that you sort of disregard the profit you're making and focus purely on the revenue from bootlegging. But even so, I mean, to earn that $3 billion is with not even that many members is pretty impressive. So shout out to Shampoo and the guys for being the first ever winners. That was pretty impressive. And then the only other thing that we changed between periods 1 and 2 was what was the other thing that we changed? It was about suiciding.
No, I think the first period was 4 weeks.
Oh yes, and now we've
and then we changed it to 3 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and we did also do something about the if you suicided your account, you wouldn't get a protection timer, because I think that what some people were doing in period 1 is that you would suicide your account, get the protection timer, rank back up to boss, and in a few days, and then suicide your account again. So essentially, your crew was always guaranteed to score revenue.
Yeah.
But we took that out, so now if you suicide, you don't get protection. So yeah, scoring period 1.
Suicide.
No protection for suicide, not.
It's amazing how we can kind of, we'll test this, right? Like this whole scoring feature and everything. We had the whole Buzz in to and all the HCOs and everything into test and give feedback on the scoring rounds and how it went. We had it for a few days. We kind of moved some people's ranks and stuff like that. And these little workarounds weren't found then. It's not until we actually throw it to all the players who are creative geniuses and will find ways to kind of have loopholes in the system for us to patch up. But
sure. Yeah. I think it's, to be honest, at this early stage of the scoring, I think it was nice that people found those workarounds. The only thing about those workarounds is that as long as everybody has the same opportunity to do them, it's probably okay to leave it for that round, so that it's you're not chopping and changing stuff halfway through a round. And we actually found out about that OC one halfway through a round, but everybody could have done it. So I think we sort of just added up all the things that we wanted to change in between rounds. Kyle made the changes, and then all he would do is release them into the live game in between rounds, so it was fair. Which I think is quite a nice. I think this sort of round approach is good for development as well, isn't it? Because he can get a load of stuff ready, and then just update the game in between, in that day in between scoring periods.
Yeah, give the players a little downtime too.
Sure. So then we came on to period 2, and it was a very closely fought contest between the royal family and Death Valley, and the royal family ended up a little bit the shine taken away because of the rollback, but luckily they still came in first position. And I know that they made well over $3 billion in period 2, which is pretty crazy. It's like $1 billion a week in revenue, which is pretty insane. So yeah, pretty massive congratulations to those guys. And then the interesting thing about period 2 in terms of scoring, apart from the very closely fought race between the royal family and Death Valley, is the fact that the first two crews in period 1, which were Criminal Grounds and the Sacred Empire, completely don't feature at all. Not even in the top 10, I don't think.
I think
that's the same of, yeah.
I think when you make, I think TSC kind of, some of those players went to different places, but I think when you work so hard and grind so much that you're eventually, and you get up that high, probably your players are going to want some time off and, then casually go through the next round and, get whatever prize they finish up naturally instead of grinding it.
Yeah.
You see all these crews on the stats page now. A lot of people who used to be in crews now getting a chance to kind of run crews, and you're seeing some smaller crews make some moves. It's pretty cool to see.
Yeah, and I also like to see that in the past, people created a lot of topics that are creating a crew seemed to be pointless. And I don't see those topics anymore. So I think that's a very good sign.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, the only criticism I get nowadays is the fact that obviously a crew is all pretty much essentially impossible to drop, and the fact that there's so many means that there's it's maybe they're not shooting each other as much as we were expecting, because there's no, there's essentially unlimited spots. But I think there are the pros and cons to the current model. So maybe thinking about it, I think the family update that will structure crews, I think, is maybe going to be a bit of a game changer.
There's definitely some game. Okay.
No, you first, right?
I definitely think there are some game changers coming ahead. Just what we've talked with Kyle about is, some sort of protection, possibly, we'd see bodyguards in the future. We're going to start seeing some of the distilleries, people like their alcohol. And I think maybe some stricter, some more success if we add protection. Then I think there's going to be some more rewards for basically wiping a crew to the point where all of their capos and successors are down. It would be kind of hard for them to get back up. So there will be that kind of, because a lot of players said, hey, we missed that gratification of dropping a crew, watching them fall from the stats. But I think that will be replaced with basically incapacitating a crew and making them not earn revenue. So even if you're a smaller crew or an underground crew and you see that crew that you really don't like climbing the leaderboards, you will be able to attack them.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can get something for them to be able to defend themselves. And I think a lot of players want to get back to killing.
Yes, I think they do. Okay, and then I guess we just touch on the current period, which it's Death Valley and the royal family at the top again. Death Valley now put their nose ahead, actually quite a bit since I last checked. So they're at 1.2 bill against 800 mil. So a bit of a lead going on there for Death Valley. So they're looking in pretty good shape to win this. But also got a new, it's Game of Thrones in position 3, which I don't think they had existed in period 2. So I guess that's either a rename of a crew or a group of players have come together to form something else. But yeah, so that's what we've got. Death Valley way out in front, Royal Family and Game of Thrones in second and third. Looking like a good contest.
I don't think Game of Thrones is much has a chance to win it all. If it's one thing I know about Game of Thrones, is it's totally going to drop the ball in the last season.
Yeah, it doesn't end well, does it?
No.
Yeah, it is not going to end well. Okay. anything else to talk about scoring? You know, like so I suppose it's one of the things that we want it to feature quite heavily in terms of the fortnightly release of this podcast, which is we do want to start getting way more involved in terms of the scoring. You know, what's going on, and we think it's quite a nice way to talk about the competition, get the crews that would be involved on here so they can discuss it with each other. So, you know, like right now, it would be cool to have Dead Rabbits and Haha to come and talk about what they're doing and how they're or what their competition's like from their point of view. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. And then obviously not just focusing on the top crews the whole time. You know, there's probably some, you know, some of the where the prizes on the leaderboard, you know, for between 10th and 11th place is, you know, people are going to fight for that because that's where obviously the cash prize turns to a gold prize. So, you know, right now, the difference between 10th place and 11th place is only like 10 mil as I'm looking at it right now. So, you know, that's a pretty hot contest. So it's not all about 1 and 2, is it? You know, like the crew boss between 10 and 11 who are Parabellum and the Colombo family. That would also be pretty cool to get those guys on.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, cool. Okay. So
hopefully this next episode that we have isn't going to be just us three again. So hopefully we can entice some of these people to come on out.
Yeah, I mean, for us, I guess this is definitely a bit of a practice run, isn't it, more than anything? But we've got a huge long list of things to talk about. We've got a huge list of guests we'd love to see. There's news and information and stuff that we'd like to talk about the whole time. So we've got loads of stuff, which is things like well, I mean, some of the cool stuff that's happening even right now, like Legion's bus party, and you know, Max joining our team. The upcoming Christmas event. You know, there's just so much stuff that we could be talking about, but I guess we leave that for the next episode.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I guess we're going to be releasing this now. It's going to go into a YouTube video, and what I guess we would ask you to do is we'll leave the link to the Discord there, and if you feel free to join the public Discord channel, the official Bootleggers one. And then if you've got a topic that you'd like us to talk about or have suggestions about the format or the way it looks, we've left everything quite basic for now. So yeah, we'd love your guys' input because ultimately this is a replacement for the Bootleggers Buzz. And this Buzzcast needs to be about what you guys would like to see and listen to instead of read for a change.
Yeah, I agree. And if people also want to join, then they are welcome to. I mean, everybody is welcome.
They are.
Most.
Well, yeah, almost everyone.
Almost everyone. And you have to send nudes first.
And we're canceled.
Cool. So I guess we're about ready to wrap this up. And yeah, I guess we don't have anyone to. We're hoping that people are listening, but I know it's not live, so it feels a bit strange to say thanks for listening and goodbye. But that is what I'm going to say.
My mother is definitely gonna listen, so that's definitely +1.
Oh, wonderful. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll look forward to that.
All right, well, let's go back and edit out all those bad things we said about you then.
Yeah, who's she sending nudes to? Okay, thanks for listening, everyone, and we'll speak to you soon.
Yes. See you guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.